And that right there to signify the kickoff to the 2021 Ohio High School Football Playoffs. Get ready because we'll have all of these recaps and more coming up next. So get ready because Gridiron Glory starts right now. The road to a state championship has just begun, so as winner go home, we have recaps from tonight's games to see who survived and previews for tomorrow. So buckle up. We start in Division 4 where the Waverly Tigers are looking to make a deep playoff push. Curtis Fader joins us with details on how round 1 went.
Well, for starters, Nick, this was Waverly's first test, and I mean test, as they took on the 12-seed Valley View Spartans. Now, it was a defensive opening to the game with both teams struggling to register a first down. Toward the end of the first quarter, Valley View was able to put enough of a drive together to get in range for Caden Phillips to hit a 32-yard field goal to put the Spartans ahead. Valley View developed some momentum in period number 2, clicking on every aspect of the game, with the Tigers struggling to keep up. Midway through the second quarter, Jake rushes for another touchdown, and from 12 yards out to put them up 11 with a 2-point conversion. Multiple 3-and-outs were all the norm for the typically electric Waverly offense, and that's all they had to show for in the first quarter, and it did not get much better as you see Wade Futhi get picked off going the other way. But Waverly found themselves in a deep 18-0 hole, but they found a way through it, scoring 21 unanswered points in the third quarter and cruised 28-18.
Wow, that really made the Waverly fans sweat a little. How are they able to bounce back in the second half?
Well, for starters, the Tigers themselves are probably asking themselves the same questions, Nick, but the Spartans did a good job trying to find those Achilles heel that Waverly showed throughout the season. So in week 8, Wheelersburg demonstrated a winning strategy by having a formidable rushing attack while taking away the big play from Waverly's offense, and Valley View utilized a similar game plan in the first half.
What fell apart for the Spartans to not be able to secure the upset?
It is tough for any team to keep a team this loaded with talent off the scoreboard, Nick. An offense this explosive wears defenses down and can score at any time. Just ask Portsmouth when the Tigers scored a touchdown in 18 seconds against them in week 5. Plus, it's hard to defend when you have Gridiron Glory Player of the Year, Final 12 candidate Will Futhi at wide receiver, and we'll see if he makes the Final 7 later on in the show.
Now that's an incredible turnaround for the Tigers. What's up next for them in their postseason run?
The Tigers will see a familiar foe, the Clinton Massey Falcons. They played each other last season, and Clinton Massey won a thriller 31-28 that marked the end of the Tigers' historic 2020 season.
We'll see if the Tigers can flip the script in 2021. Now, Curtis, to win the playoffs, every position is important. I heard that you spent some time with a special team standout.
That is totally right, Nick. I talked to a talented special teamsman who excelled in every aspect of the position. So I decided to travel an hour and a half down the road to kick it with Braxton Salmons.
Braxton Salmons is a senior kicker for the Wheelersburg Pirates. He made the preseason All-State second team after making 6 field goals and going 40 for 41 on extra points his junior season. Salmons kept pace again his senior year with 6 made field goals and finished the regular season with 48 total points. His stellar performance on special teams has warranted interest from the next level, and Salmons is up for the challenge.
But I've been to some places. I have some places on my mind, but I'm ready for it. I know it's a new chapter, but I think that I've prepared myself to get ready to compete at that level, so I'm really excited for it.
What is one thing that you would want people to know just about special teams in general, because, it's probably one of the most underappreciated aspects of the sport?
I think it's a lot of hidden yardage. There's a lot of plays that go unnoticed, and then you look back in the game and you're like, that was huge. So I think special teams has really been one of our strengths this year because, a lot of teams don't really execute special teams the way we can, so we got to make sure we take advantage of that.
All right. Well, thanks for talking with me. Now, we do have some footballs out here. Do you want to play a quick game of pig?
Yeah, definitely. We can.
All right, let's do it. That was a good start.
All right. Again.
That's game. Good job, man.
Good game.
That was good.
Catch Salmons and the Pirates in action at Ed Miller Stadium as Wheelersburg hosts their first playoff game on Saturday. For Gridiron Glory, I'm Curtis Fader.
Now I hear Wheelersburg has an intriguing first-round matchup tomorrow. Why don't you tell us a little bit about it?
Sure thing again. Now, the Pirates will host Portsmouth West on Saturday, and you know when they last saw each other? Last week. The Wheelersburg Pirates made light work of the Senators Week 10 in a 38-0 blowout, with Derek Lattimore having 88 yards on the ground with a TD, and Eric Lattimore having 80 receiving yards and a touchdown catch himself. While Portsmouth West can make some direct adjustments in the last meeting fresh on their minds, I do not foresee the Pirates having too many problems moving on to the next round. Now, Wheelersburg struggled out of the gate to start the year, but they are peaking at the right time, Nick, winning 5 straight to end the regular season and shutting out 3 of their last 4 opponents. Wheelersburg also found their identity on offense, with quarterback Eli Jones combining well with Derek Lattimore and Ethan Glover for an elite read option ground attack, along with weapons at receiver such as Eric Lattimore and Josh Clark to catch defenses napping for large scores. A win on Saturday could result in a clash with Ridgewood in the next round, a team that knocked out Wheelersburg the past 2 seasons. But with the way the Southern Ohio Conference champs are looking right now, they are a top contender to make it out of their region. To see live updates and post-game analysis of Wheelersburg versus Portsmouth West, follow Gridiron Glory on all of our digital media platforms.
Hey, Curtis, thanks for working a little overtime this weekend. Appreciate the work as always.
Thanks.
Wheelersburg will look to make their playoff run in Division V, Region 19. Here are the biggest first-round games happening tomorrow in that region. The 8 versus 9 matchup is between Zanesville and Portsmouth. Each team has solid regular seasons, with the Pioneers going 8-2 and the Trojans going 7-3. Another fascinating contest features Columbus Academy hosting Liberty Union. The Lions lost 4 games this season, but those opponents went a combined 33-7 this season. We'll see if they can pull off the upset on Saturday. 4th-seeded Ridgewood plays Bishop Reedy. If Ridgewood and Wheelersburg win, they would meet for a 3rd straight season in the playoffs. Finally, unbeaten Piketon is hosting Coshocton. Hear from Coach Tyler Gullion and wide receiver Johnny Burton later in the show to hear what this game means to them. The regular season is over and we're ready to release the second watch list for Gridiron Glory Player of the Year. These 7 players have dominated the competition this season. So our first candidate for the Gridiron Glory Player of the Year award is Holden Daly from Waterford. The running back has done it all for the Wildcats this season, leading them to another playoff appearance in Division 7 after a 7-2 regular season. Now our next candidate is Piketon's Levi Gullion. The senior quarterback led the Redstreaks to their first unbeaten season since the 1960s. Gullion can do it all through the air and with his legs, with 28 passing touchdowns and 18 rushing touchdowns this season. Gullion also led Piketon to their first home playoff game in school history. That game is tomorrow against Coshocton. So now our third candidate is Carson Crouch from Granville. The Blue Aces has had their first unbeaten regular season this century. Crouch completed 61% of his passes this season for 1,500 passing yards and 22 total touchdowns. Now our only defensive candidate is Bel Air's Colt Seacrest. The linebacker does it all with 77 tackles and 5 interceptions. 2 of those were pick sixes. Seacrest also produces on the offensive side with 11 total touchdowns. Bel Air went 9-1 this season and is the 5th seed in their region. So our next candidate is Tri-Valley quarterback Drew Burkhart. This guy has won the MVL title, beating rivals Sheridan and John Glenn to end the regular season. Burkhart has 30 total touchdowns, 23 of those are through the air and 7 on the ground. Next up is wide receiver Will Futhi from Waverly. Futhi has faced double teams constantly this season, but with the connection with his twin brother Wade, the Tigers have been the most explosive passing offense in Southeast Ohio. Our final candidate is Jason Munyon from Sheridan. Munyon rewrote the record books for the Generals on the ground, breaking the career rushing yards and rushing touchdown record at Sheridan High School. Now we will be releasing our final 5 candidates on the show next week. And where can you vote for our Gridiron Glory Player of the Year once we narrow it down to 5? Our website, woub.org/gridiron. Gridiron Glory is also on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Follow along for game breakdowns, highlight videos, photos, and written recaps. Plus, stay up to date with coverage of all of the Saturday games in Divisions 5, 6, and 7. The playoffs got underway in Division 4, Region 15, and Bloom-Carroll entered as the top seed. Brian Kerp joins us now to talk a little Bulldogs football as they look to make a statement.
Yeah, Nick, the Bulldogs absolutely rolled through their regular season schedule and had a date tonight with the Warren Warriors. The Dog Pound getting into Halloween spirit. Students all decked out in their costumes. The players came out wearing some Halloween masks too, and well, the Bulldogs were flat out scary tonight. On their opening drive, it's Chase Plants sowing the seeds for what the Bulldogs hope is a big playoff run. Plants' 2-yard run on 4th down gets the Bulldogs on the board with a 7-0 lead. The offense just getting started, and after a forced 3-and-out, KJ Benedict connects with Brandon Dodds, and Dodds does the rest of the work. He sneaks it inside the pylon. 14-0 Bulldogs, not even 5 minutes in. And the Warren offense could not move the ball against that stingy Bulldogs defense. Trent Taylor trying to move the Warriors downfield, but Bo Wisecarver, he had a different plan in mind. That ball was going in the other direction, and mistakes like that can't happen if you're Warren, because on the very next play, KJ Benedict dekes out the defense, and he is going to find Pater again for Bloom-Carroll. He goes 35 yards to the house. The Bulldogs led 34-0 after 1 quarter, and when it's a rainy night, keep pounding that rock, and that is exactly what the Bulldogs did. Plants takes a handoff, and he's got his 2nd score of the night. The Bulldogs had a 49-0 advantage at the half and win by that final. Top-seeded Bloom-Carroll is moving on.
You mentioned pounding the rock there at the end. Talk about that Bloom-Carroll running game.
Yeah, so like I mentioned, it was a very rainy night at Carl Fell Stadium, and the Bulldogs had a good cast of backs that carried the mail tonight, and leading that charge was number 19, Chase Plants. There he is right there. He had 124 yards on 10 carries, and this is just in the first half. He also had 2 touchdowns, and hey, whenever his name was called, he delivered. We also had KJ Benedict, the quarterback, as you saw there in the highlights, and also Dylan Armentrout that had a good night for the Bulldogs.
Yeah, and you mentioned KJ Benedict. Talk about his passing game.
Oh yeah, so as you can see here, he's good at eluding pressure there, finding his open receiver, and made a nice pass right there to Bo Wisecarver. And as you see, nice deke moves. He takes it down inside the end zone. That led to another touchdown. And yeah, he had a good job, another great pass here. He actually almost slipped, but right there, look, a very slippery turf. He found his receiver, and again, that led to another score for Bloom-Carroll.
Big defensive game for Bloom-Carroll. Talk about that.
Yeah, so Bloom-Carroll had 2 straight shutouts, and tonight they made it 3 straight, and they hold Warren in the first half to, guess what, just 20 yards.
Wow, that is impressive for Bloom-Carroll.
And yeah, so obviously with Bloom-Carroll advances, they will advance to face the 8 versus 9 game, and in that contest, it was Highland. They were able to beat Lyndon McKinley. The Bulldogs faced off against Highland in week 1, and the Fighting Scots were no match for the Bulldogs as Bloom-Carroll won 49-17.
Should be an exciting rematch, Brian. And on the bottom side, you see a highly anticipated 4 versus 5 battle between Heath and Indian Valley. Both teams advanced easily in round 1. The Bulldogs won 21-2, while the Braves moved with a 30-12 victory. And I know you love watching those Bulldogs, and we'll be following them on the second round as well as they look for a 2nd straight regional title. Thanks for the great work, Brian. The weather conditions weren't ideal, but our host for our game of the week was still ready to go. Here are the sights from Meadowbrook. The stage is set for our game of the week, and I'm now joined by Aaron Ashley to talk about this anticipated matchup.
This matchup is definitely not something you wanted to miss, so I will just jump right into it. The Meadowbrook Colts hosted the Vinton County Vikings tonight for the first round of playoffs. For the Colts' first drive, senior quarterback Josh Hupp fakes out the Viking defense and runs in for the first score of the game. After slamming the Vikings defense once more, running back Caden Casey shuffles around, evades capture, and just takes off. He is just going, and he is gone. He struts into the end zone after sprinting 76 yards to secure himself and the Colts 6 more points. Casey takes this momentum and powers through the Vikings defense once more for another touchdown for the Colts. Although the Vikings are down by 4 touchdowns, Zane Carr is able to weave around the wall of Colts defenders to put Vinton County on the board for the first time tonight. Unfortunately for Vinton County, Meadowbrook's #1, Hunter Eubanks, snags the catch from Hupp, stretching the Colts' lead even further. And after a seamless performance by the Colts, the game ended 34 Vinton County and 64 Meadowbrook, which is enough to push the Colts into the next round of the tournament.
Yeah, what a game, Aaron. It seemed like they dominated right from the get-go. What got them going early on both ends of the field? So, talking from the Colts' standpoint, that defense was just magical in the first half. Truly, if you look right here, I'll let the video do the speaking. They shut down every drive from the beginning, and ultimately in the second quarter, that is where they shut down the most drives and gained the most points in comparison to the rest of the game, especially in the second half. Yeah, and Meadowbrook were able to put up 64 points. How was their offense clicking tonight? So their offense was clicking very, very well tonight. If there's one thing you love about an offensive team, it's that they're elusive. They're great at communicating, and ultimately, they're just entertaining to watch. One right after the other, there was a dynamic duo between Josh Hupp, the quarterback, and then you also have Caden Casey, who was able to score a total of 3 touchdowns alone in the first half, completing a hat trick ultimately of touchdowns. And then later on into the half, he was able to reach 144 yards for the Colts alone. Wow, Aaron. Overall, the Colts' performance in the first half, I guess what set the scene for the rest of the game. Now, looking at next week, should be a very anticipated matchup for Meadowbrook. Thanks for the great work, Aaron. Let's take a look at the playoff bracket as it stands right now. At the bottom of your screen, you see John Glenn and Meadowbrook. We know the Colts just moved on, and they'll get to see a rematch between the MVL rivals. John Glenn took the first contest 35-7. We'll see if Meadowbrook can put up more of a fight this time around. On the top side of the bracket, both home teams moved on. St. Clairsville was pushed by the 15th seed Licking Valley, but the Red Devils moved on. This sets up another rematch as St. Clairsville defeated Carrollton 42-35 in week 1. Now 63% of the vote got this poll correct. Now remember, you can find these polls on Instagram. Now moving on to our next matchup, Zanesville against London. The fans were a little bit more split on this one, with 55% siding with London. Let's find out if they were right. Reporter Joe Collins was at this highly anticipated game, and he joins us from Ohio University Lancaster. Joe, how did this matchup fare?
Nick, both of these teams were pretty evenly matched, despite this being a 4 versus 13 matchup in Region 11. In fact, many people were scratching their heads at Zanesville being ranked 13th in the region, despite being 6-3. The London Red Raiders came into this game winners of 8 straight after starting the season 0-2. London fumbled on their first drive, but were able to hold the Blue Devils to 0 points thanks to a busted play on 4th down that goes over the head of Isaac Mail, and London will take over. The Red Raiders decided to control the clock from there on out, but not before Dylan Combs hits Andrew Sims on a play-action pass. Sims then says, "Get off me," to Slade Young, who will finally be wrestled down by 2 defenders after a gain of 39 yards. The Red Raiders took over 3 minutes off the clock before Antoine Burns runs it in from 1 yard out to give the Red Raiders a 7-0 lead. A defensive turnover and another long drive later, the lead would be extended to 10 thanks to a short field goal by Ryan Fulmer right before the end of the first half. The Red Raiders went back to the ground game to start the third, and it pays off big time as Noah Solers has nobody touch him on a huge 51-yard touchdown run that seemed out of nowhere to make it 17-0 lead. From there on out, the London defense played another one of its signature games as they did not allow a single point and didn't allow Zanesville past the 50-yard line in the final 20 minutes of play. London takes this one by a final of 17-0 and moves on in the playoffs.
Now a sound defensive win for London. It seemed like the Red Devils set the tone in the first half.
That's correct, Nick. They did this on both sides of the ball. However, Zanesville didn't exactly help themselves out either. Both teams had just 3 possessions each in the first half. For the Red Raiders, their game plan was quality over quantity. They fumbled on their first drive, but were able to put together 2 very long scoring drives, getting a touchdown and a field goal that allowed them to have possession for at least 70% of the first half. The Blue Devils, for comparison, had 2 of their 3 drives end up inside the London 25. They ended up with 0 points and 2 turnovers. If there was a phrase to describe London's defense in this game, it would be bend, but don't break.
You said earlier that London started the season 0-2. It seemed like they've really found their groove since then.
They absolutely did, and that loss to Licking Valley Week 2 really got the Red Raiders to focus up. Since that loss, their closest game has been a 19-point win over Tecumseh, excluding Friday night. Everyone else they've beaten by an average of about 30 points. They've been nothing short of fantastic on defense, and it helps to have Isaiah Jones as their linebacker, one of the top players in the state. They play as a unit and break on the ball every time with great efficiency, which makes them hard to get past. And shout out to this kid getting the kicking tee who told me he wanted to be on air. Well, here you go, kid. With this win, the Red Raiders have now won 9 straight games. However, they're in for a battle next week as they take on Bishop Hartley.
Yeah, and what a matchup that is setting up to be early in the playoffs. Thanks for the great work, Joe. Always get back to Athens safe. On Saturday, the Piketon Redstreaks will host their first ever playoff game in school history. We talked with head coach Tyler Gullion and wide receiver Johnny Burton before the special game for the team and the town.
Hope for the best, but I mean, to go through a season undefeated is really special. I know you say it, you
See you later.
put that goal, but it doesn't happen very often. So, am I a little bit surprised? Probably yes, because it's just hard to get up for every week and not slip up, and so to stay undefeated, it's pretty special, and didn't really see all that coming.
Something that we've hoped for since we were young. We always told ourselves we stuck together, we could do big things, and to see it all unfold, and now to go into the playoffs with mentality that we can beat anybody, it's a good atmosphere to be in.
First home playoff game, so I expect a big crowd. Hopefully the rain clears out, but either way, it should be a special night.
The fast quarterback, stop the running backs, and let our offense do our thing.
Piketon will host Coshocton tomorrow night, and we'll see if they're set for their town for this trick-or-treat before the game on Saturday. Sorry about that one. Switching gears now to Division 7, Region 27, we have 6 teams who could compete for a regional title. Now I'm joined by Zach Paquette. Break this one down for us.
Yeah, Nick, football fans from the 740 will love the top of this region. And as we take a look here at the region, all 6 of the top seeds in the region, they come from Southeast Ohio. Newark Catholic comes in as the clear favorite in the region with a 9-1 record. Bern Union and Shadyside are right behind them at 2nd and 3rd. East Knox comes in as the 4 seed, meaning they'll get 2 guaranteed home playoff games. Trimble and Waterford round out the top 6.
All 6 of those teams are serious contenders. What teams should we be looking a little closer at?
Yeah, let's start with the favorites, the Newark Catholic Green Wave. 9 of their 10 regular season games were against teams that were in Division 6 and above, meaning they've played tough competition all year. Cole Cantor is looking to lead the Green Wave back to the Final Four this year, where they'll hopefully finally get over the hump and win a state title. The Bern Union Rockets will bring a high-powered offense into the playoffs that's averaging over 50 points per game. Only concern I have for them is their strength of schedule. Their best win came against Worthington Christian, who ranks 10th in Region 23. Have they been tested enough to make a deep playoff run? And 5 weeks ago, we saw the Trimble Tomcats lose their 2nd straight game of the season to Fort Fry, but they've seemed to find their rhythm now as the Tomcats have rattled off 4 straight wins where they've only given up 8 points total in those 4 games. They have the 5 seed, meaning after this week, it will more than likely mean they'll be on the road from here on out.
Which team do you feel really could surprise us this year?
Yeah, one team I think nobody should take lightly is the Waterford Wildcats. They come in winners of 5 straight, and their only losses have came against Trimble and Fort Fry. So they have a pretty good resume for a 6th seed.
Zach, it looks like the Green Wave may have some competition if they look to repeat as regional champs. Thanks for the work, Zach. Moving to Division 6, Nelsonville York hosts South Centerburg in Division 6 Region 23 action. This 8 versus 9 seed matchup should be highly competitive as both teams are heating up to end the season. The Buckeyes won the TVC Ohio title, while Centerburg had a marquee matchup in Week 9 against Northmore. The 6th seed in this region, check out our social media pages for complete coverage from this one. Now let's go to Division 3, where the 2nd-seeded Jackson Ironmen took on the Columbus South Bulldogs.
The Ironmen were on a 6-game winning streak going into tonight, and they look to keep the momentum rolling into the postseason. Jacob Winters has led an offense averaging over 50 points in the last 5 games, and he got it done with his arm tonight. After 3 and out to start for the Bulldogs, Winters finds Eli Browerman up the seam to put Jackson into the red zone. Then on 4th and 6, Winters goes play action, takes his time, and finds Cade Wolford wide open for 6. Wolford would celebrate with his teammate Brody Butcher, and Jackson's up 7-0. Later in the first quarter, it's winners again. This time a beautiful throw to Drew Bragg, and the seniors in for a 24-yard touchdown. Extra point makes it 14-0 Ironmen. The defense also got the job done. Deshaun Simmons makes a few defenders miss, looks like he might have some room, but Ty Jones punches the ball loose. Brody Landrum's on top. Jackson goes right back down the field. Winners sheds a tackler there, and then finds Holden Blankenship in the back of the end zone for a touchdown to make it 20-0 Ironmen. Now running the 2-minute drill. Winners goes deep down the sideline for Tristan Prater, who makes an incredible toe tap grab. Both of those are in bounds, and Jackson's in field goal range. And now Ethan Crabtree, the sophomore kicker, 42-yarder, right down the middle. Jackson up 23-0 at half and move on with a 37-0 victory.
Now that's a great performance in all facets tonight. Who were the key performers for Jackson?
Well, the junior quarterback came up big to start off Jackson's postseason. Winners was all over that highlight call. You saw him with 3 touchdown passes in the first half, added a 4th, and they all went to different receivers. Maybe most impressive was that 2-minute drill. Winners did a great job working the ball to the sideline, getting the ball down the field. They only had 1 timeout. They got the field goal off with 3 seconds left, so every second mattered. That's a beautiful throw, showing off his accuracy to Jacob Winners along the sideline. They also showed an ability to go under center much more than they have in the last few weeks. While it wasn't perfect, Jackson's offense showed off their versatility tonight.
Now talk about on the defensive side. Who was their key performer?
Senior Ty Jones. That's him there on the sack. He did a great job. He forced a fumble, recovered a fumble here after a huge hit from Xander Karagosian. He was a playmaker, utilizing his speed all game.
Now that was an impressive performance. Now talk about Jackson's experience on the front.
Jackson's front 7 did a great job. This is a run-heavy Columbus South Bulldog offense. I want to point out they averaged 45 points a game in the regular season, and they got shut out tonight for the first time. Jackson did the same to Chillicothe. As the season has gone along, this Ironman team has looked better and better with each passing game. So now, what's up next for the Ironmen? They play the winner of the 7-10 battle between Eastmoor and Jonathan Alder, and it was the Warriors, Eastmoor, getting the victory. We'll be seeing them as they head south to Jackson County to square off with the Ironmen.
Yeah, I'm excited for that one, as I know you are too. On the bottom side of the region, 3rd-seeded Tri-Valley was upset by 14-seed Bell Fountain. They will advance to play Western Brown. The Broncos' offense is one of the most explosive in the state. We'll see if Bell Fountain can pull off another upset. That upset of Tri-Valley is a reminder that really anything can happen in football. Isn't that right, Will?
Yeah, and I can't wait to see what happens next week for the Ironmen.
I know you are. Great, thanks for the great work, Will. It was definitely a memorable kickoff to the postseason. We still have a lot more for you to show. On the other side of Region 11, we see a lot of 7-4-0 teams and Columbus Catholic League teams. We start with the top seed, Granville. They move on with a 36-14 win over Bishop Watterson. They now face Columbus DeSales, who was given all they could handle by Sheridan Generals, but they move on to take on the top-seeded Blue Aces. We'll have all this and more on all of our Facebook and Instagram and all of our social media pages. So don't worry. Remember, there's nothing better than Friday nights and Gridiron Glory.
Support comes from O'Neill Hartman Insurance, a full-service, third-generation, locally owned agency focusing on building personal relationships and providing professional service to individuals and businesses. Information on the web and on Facebook. Support comes from the law firm of Bricker and Eckler, providing legal services in the Southeast Ohio region for energy, education, government, and business counsel. More information at bricker.com/sales.